This is Fire, and today we are going to be doing the Cultist quest to kill the boss Gurmur. This quest normally appears around level 10 or 11, but you should never do it until you're level 20 and quite well equipped because it can be pretty difficult. It's easy when you know how, but it's still something that will get you very easily killed if you don't know what you're doing and you don't have the right equipment for it. So make sure you're well equipped before you try it. Here we see the other two quests, which don't appear until you're level 20, the Dreadlord Nabin and the King quest. I should note, you want to kill the cultist boss Gurmur before you go to fight the King, because otherwise tentacles will pop up underneath you randomly as you're fighting the King. You can still kill the King without killing the cultist boss, but it will make things much more difficult. Just dropping some of the useless items here that I'm not going to use. They're not useless totally, but they're useless for me for this battle, like the runes I do not need. And that way I have some room to pick up some things. I always carry a lot of junk. Lighting all the torches around is a good idea. That way you can phase shift or use wands or scrolls to teleport to get back. I have a legendary item. I haven't done any of the imbuements yet. I'm not going to use it. I'm playing as a mage. Using 2 claws is also a good idea as a mage. And so instead of using the staff, I'm using 2 claws. I haven't used runes on them yet. That's why they don't have 3 enchants. I hadn't got exactly what I wanted, so I was waiting to enchant them until I got the exact runes I wanted. But all my other equipment has runes used on it, and as you see, I got really nice enchants. I like crit. I have silent cast, and so crit, even though crit isn't good for hitting with the spells really, the silent cast makes it so you'll use energy very little with the amount of crit. I have 3 crit, and so I'll get the clear casting very often. I have a ring of immunity on my 3rd leg of the imp, and so I have elements and immunity, which I like to have those effects. That way I'm immune now with all the enchants to every single disabling ability in the game. I'm also immune to silence, even though it doesn't show it because I have silent cast. I also have all the casting charms, so I'm able to get a casting modifier of +6 without any armor on. That is why I like the Ring of Ebon, so it gives me +1 to all my stats, so I don't need as many enchanting stats. There you see all my abilities. I have dual wield, so I get +2 parry at 9 agility now instead of +1. There's plane shift. I got the infernal spells through scrolls of knowledge, even though I don't have the infernal spell tree. It's a slow process, but you can get all the spells in the game by using scrolls of knowledge without actually even taking any of the literacies. And there you see my casting modifiers of +6. With a mage, you don't ever want to go past +5 without armor or +6 without armor and the charms. Other classes can get a modifier past +5 for their attacking abilities. You can't get past a +5 a block or +6 if you have a charm. There you see my buffs. Those are the buffs I like to use. I don't use any of the other ones. That's on my hotbar key number 2. The spells I like to have on my hotbar are Remove Curse, Renewing Touch, Electric Orb, Enlarge Orb, and Plane Shift. I put Plane Shift without any key in between 4 and 6, just because I'm paranoid and I don't want to accidentally cast something else when I mean to do Plane Shift. So here we see the first room. It has 6 guys. The setups in all the boss quests are always the same. The traps are in the same spots and the enemies are in the same spots. Here we see the awesomeness of Enlarged Orb. I can attack from a space away. Tentacles pop up under all the cultist corpses, so keep that in mind. They will also attack the cultists, but this can be a bad thing because you can get a bunch of tentacles up, and if you're not playing as ranged, it can be very deadly. Also, the tentacles throw rocks, but they don't have as far a range for a throw as you do, say, casting a spell or shooting an arrow. So you can stay out of range and still hit them, even if you're not a caster, if you have spells and divine reach, then you can hit them, and then that way you don't have to be in range, because the rocks can damage your armor. That's the more annoying thing about the rocks. They usually don't do very much damage to you. Once again, I'm gonna make sure I light all the torches. As you saw, I plane shift back as I opened the door for the cultist. This is also why silent move, which I don't have, but silent move is really nice because you can be hidden. Even if you're not playing as melee, it's nice as range too. You can hide, open the door, then the enemies won't see you. Like there I got hit. If I was hidden, I wouldn't get hit. And then I could safely plane shift backwards. So here I'm just going to sit back, keep on casting Enlarged Orb and then Electric Orb some more. I like Electric Orb, especially with a +6 modifier. Things get shocked all the time, which is they get paralyzed. I also like to use Flame Orb. It makes stuff die quicker because they get set on fire, and then you can run away and they'll burn. And with a higher modifier, it does more damage. Those are only two of the orb spells I really like to use. Here I'm pushing the boulder into these holes. It does seem to weaken Gurmur. I don't know exactly how, or I mean all the things it does, but I would do it. You can still kill Gurmur without it, because the first few times I fought Gurmur, I did not push the boulders in, and I was still able to kill Gurmur. So you don't have to do it, but since you know to do it, there's no reason not to do it. And so make sure you do it. One thing about all the cultist weapons, they'll have enchants, or a lot of them will. And so that's why the cultists aren't very deadly by themselves, but they can have some bad enchants. And that's why I always try to have as many immunities as I can have. The immunities I always like to mention, the two super important ones are fear and confusion. But this late in the game, you also want to have instant death for sure. Paralyze is really important, because if something has paralyzed, it's basically like instant death, because you get stun locked. You can never move again once you get paralyzed, because it keeps on restacking, unlike other things. I don't know if that's a bug, but it's horrible if something has paralysis. I used to not use paralysis immunity, and then that happened to me where I got paralyzed, and I was like, wow, this is just like instant death. Curse immunity is also one of the required ones, I feel, end game, because of all the skeleton mages that are in the final battle, but it helps throughout the game. So getting curse immunity whenever you can is really helpful. And then also, if you're playing a mage, you either want silent cast or having silence immunity. Otherwise, that will end up getting you killed. So I blocked that cultist attack because I have the Fragment of Tyrannus, which gives a +1 to your blocking even without a shield. But it does not give you a deflect modifier, which makes you harder to hit from a range. It just gives you a +1 to block without a shield, which is pretty funny that you can block attack without a shield. I like playing as a mage. I think mages are the best class in the game to play as, so that's what I'm doing this as. You can do it as other classes, but mages, you can play very safely. You can attack from a distance all the time. You can keep on casting even when your energy's out. It just does 1 to 3 damage. And with Renewing Touch end game, it's not that big of a deal, because Renewing Touch at 12 charisma, a +5 modifier, heals for 6 to 8 a turn, and it will last around 5 turns. So you can keep yourself healed up. And then I have a +6 modifier, so it heals 7 to 9. Renewing Touch doesn't heal you during a haste turn. It only heals you the turn after the enemies move. I get hasted every turn because I have the Blessed Amulet of Free Action, which is the best amulet by far in the game. I like it for every single build in the game. However, Amulets of Free Action, the blessed versions, are one of the most rare items in the game, so getting a Blessed Amulet of Free Action is also really difficult. But Amulets of Free Action, even if not blessed, are the best amulet for any ranged build. That Treeman popped up because at level 20, when you pick the mushrooms, there's a chance that Treeman will come up when you pick a mushroom. The higher crit modifier you have, the higher chance of getting Treeman. At +5 modifier, you will get them all the time, which actually is also a good thing because you can farm charms that way, and they always drop an enchanted item. But it can also get you killed if you're not paying attention. Their aura hits kind of hard, and so that's something you want to be aware of whenever you go to pick mushrooms at level 20, because it could get you killed if, say, you're like me and you switch your items around a lot and you're going back through a dungeon you already cleared to pick up all the items, which I do in pretty much every dungeon. And so if you have items on that don't have all your enchants and stuff like that, it could get you killed. So always be aware of the treemen popping up from whenever you pick a mushroom. I'm going to push in this next boulder. There's 3 of them. This boulder you can screw up. You can screw up any of them, but one time I broke the barrel there, and when I pushed it down, I pushed it against the wall, and so I wasn't able to push in all the boulders. But like I said, you don't have to do it to kill Gurmur. It just makes things easier when you're fighting Gurmur. I always recommend having the talent Keen Eye. That is why I see traps from far away. With Illumination, I get an extra +1 range. Note, all the traps are always in the same place. So if you don't have Keen Eye, which you should, just keep that in mind, because this alarm trap, you do not want to trip. It will probably make it so you can't kill Gurmur if you're not really well equipped. If you're as well equipped as I am, then you'll be okay. But stuff will start popping up around once you go through this door here. Gurmur knows you're there, and he'll start opening up holes in the ground, and snakes will come out, and then tentacles will randomly pop up. Gurmur will also drop boulders. I feel it only seems to happen when I'm in the room with Gurmur and you're at a distance, but occasionally he'll drop boulders, which is why when I go to confront Gurmur, one of the things I like to have is a blessed amulet of ghost form, or a regular amulet of ghost form. Actually is fine for this entire battle fighting all the cultists, but the cultists can have spell enchants on it. Like a fire enchant will do double damage to you if they have a fire enchant on their weapon, so keep that in mind. But it shouldn't be that big of a deal. It's definitely something you would want to have if you don't have a blessed amulet of free action and you're playing as melee. Ghost form amulet is good even if it's not a blessed one, and it's definitely the amulet you want to go for if you're fighting Gurmur as melee. But as we'll see, I'll show you a much easier way to kill Gurmur. In fact, this is the way I recommend to kill Gurmur no matter what once I get to him. Got a couple more rooms to go here. You don't have to go in this room, but I'm going to clear it anyways. There's always this one cultist, and there's more boxes. Pretty much all this loot's not useful for me that I'm getting. I'm pretty much ready to go kill the king. Actually, I'm completely ready to go kill the king. With runes and everything and the charms, you're able to get pretty overpowered in the game. However, you can still easily die in a turn or two if you play really dumb. So just always keep that in mind. No matter how powerful you are, you're always a couple of turns away from getting yourself killed, especially if you don't have very many immunities. If you're, say, trying to get like plus 20 strength as a strength build, and you just want to do as much damage and have as much life as possible, you can still die in a couple of turns or get disabled, which will end up making you get killed. So just keep that in mind. I used that scroll of light that lit all the torches. That's actually not a bad thing to bring in, just that way you get all the torches lit. And then you won't have to spend all your time lighting all the torches like I am, and you can plane shift all around without having to light them right at the beginning. That was kind of a jerk thing. I didn't mean to say LOL to the guy that just died. It was more to the guy that said the renewing touch. It looked like I was laughing at a guy dying, and I wasn't. I was laughing at the renewing touch part. That's the funny thing about being online. Sometimes people don't realize your intentions, and it looks like you're being a jerk, and you're not, or you are being a jerk and you don't realize it. So you be the judge. Jerk, not jerk. So I kept on casting a large orb in the middle there just to make sure I got everything dead without even having to get touched. Again, you don't have to play this safely with all the enchants I got. But again, playing safely is what's going to save your life. You do not want to play dumb. Playing dumb at any part is going to get you killed. I know I'm repeating myself, but do not play dumb. Do not play dumb. Now we are going to Gurmur's room. We got one last trap. And now I'm going to do my pre-fight preparation to kill Gurmur. Rebuffing right now. As I was saying before, a blessed amulet of ghost form is an excellent way to go, along with a potion of swiftness. That way you still get hasted. You always want to cast a scroll of invisibility on yourself before you go into the room. I'm not going to use either my blessed amulet of free action or my blessed ghost form amulet. I'm going to use a blessed amulet of evocation. Normally it's good to have several of these, not the blessed version, but have like 4 or 5 non-blessed ones will be plenty. Even as a non-mage, you can do this method. And so using the potion of swiftness, casting invisibility on myself before I open the door, and then that way Gurmur doesn't see you right away, and then you can just walk in and make sure you move up far enough to target Gurmur in the middle, and then target Gurmur. And that doesn't happen every time, but yep, battle is done. Gurmur's dead. We win. There we go. That's it. Enlarged Orb is so overpowered on Gurmur. Use wands of Enlarged Orb as well. Anyone that says it does Enlarged Orb. Try to get Adept or Masters though. But yeah, you can bring multiple ones of those in as even a fighter and do this method, and it will kill Gurmur very easily. That quiver is worthless as a mage. I think you should be able to carry 24 arrows without a charm, and then maybe 48 with that charm, because of all the charms in the game and the runes. Without increased inventory space as an archer, it is a pain. Even using bolts, which is ideally what you want to use, it's a pain to carry all that stuff, and then you're lucky if you even find the charm before you beat the game. So it's just really annoying. I think you should be able to carry more arrows and bolts right off the bat, or we need more inventory space. Gurmur always drops enchanted items, some runes if you have the runes unlocked, and then also a charm. So you can press T to teleport back, but I dropped junk back at the beginning, so I gotta run back. And also I'm trying to decide what I want to pick up. I equipped my Blessed Ring of Sustenance. That way I don't use food. Or you can equip 2 regular rings of sustenance, 1 on each finger, and that will also make it so your food and water does not decrease at all. One thing to note, whenever you do the Cultist quest or the Dreadlord quest, after you finish it, your dungeon resets automatically. So keep that in mind. You can't put stuff on the floor in the dungeon you're in because you'll get a new dungeon. I got a loot hoarder there because I put a blessed ring of outcasts on a third leg of the imp. Whatever third leg of the imp you picked up first is the effect you'll get. And so I have 2, and so the other one, like I said, is a ring of immunity. But this way you can get a loot hoarder every dungeon and get lots and lots of runes. You get some enchanted items and charms. Great for getting your charms. So if you haven't got all the charms you want and you happen to get a blessed ring of outcasts that you do not want to turn into a ring of ebon, then you can do this and you will get lots and lots of good items. It makes it so even I might want to do dungeons quickly instead of trying to skim every single cent I can out of the dungeon like I generally do. If you're hell-bent on doing the Cultist quest and killing Gurmur as some form of melee, Gurmur is vulnerable to paralysis. And so like as Blade Fairy, if you have paralysis on your weapon, I've had it where Gurmur doesn't even act, doing it as Blade Fairy build. A warrior with the 2-handed weapons, the hardest. You could have paralysis on that, and then it might make it easier. I haven't tried it that way, but if you're going to do it like straight as a warrior with the 2-hander, a warrior with the shield's better. But if you're going to do it as a warrior, a good setup to have as far as the jewelry, because that's what really matters, is having a ring of regeneration, a blessed one if you can get it, an amulet of ghost form, and a ring of fortitude. If you have a third leg of an imp, maybe another ring of regeneration on the third leg of the imp, or a ring of fortitude would be a good way to go. But you just want to be able to heal yourself. And then I would use a potion of swiftness, and invisibility scroll as you enter is still a good idea. That way you get strikes in before Gurmur starts summoning guys. But once Gurmur starts summoning guys, then things can start to get really hairy, because oftentimes your equipment will start getting broken. So you want to make sure you bring some scrolls of blessing to repair it or re-bless your equipment, because it will repair or bless your equipment. Besides jewelry, a potion of troll's blood is smart to give yourself even more healing. And always have the divine spell tree regardless of the build. That's the most important spell tree for any build, so you can still cast Renewing Touch. It's still useful as a non-mage, and having both Divine Might and Divine Grace is invaluable for +1 to all your stats. Oh, and that Blessed Amulet of Protection, I made money off of it by double enchanting it and then using a rune. It's one of the less valuable amulets, but it still makes a decent amount of money, because when a thing is triple enchanted, it sells for way more. So you can do that with like Blessed Plate Armor, get 2 enchants on it, and then use a rune that you're not going to use. Alright, so that's it for my Cultist video of killing Gurmur. Next one, we're going to do the Dreadlord Nabin. This is Fire, and we're on fire.